Morning arrives, without spectacle, and yet everything changes when attention settles. A single step feels both ordinary and momentous, as if the earth remembers every footfall that has carried meaning. That old line, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step," is not instruction, but permission. It loosens the weight of perfection. There is no grand announcement needed, only the decision to move with an open heart and steady breath. Notice how the world quietly rearranges for those who begin with curiosity rather than certainty. Let the hush of dawn be an ally and an invitation. Curiosity is the compass that turns questions into paths and fear into motion. When attention leans toward wonder, even small choices become doorways to deeper experience and learning. The mind that asks, "What if?" opens the map differently and reveals trails hidden by habit and hurry. There is freedom in allowing interest to lead for a while, trusting that intelligence is born from exploration more than from certainty. This is not reckless wandering, but a practiced softness toward newness. Welcome the unknown as a teacher rather than an adversary. A commitment need not be monumental. It can be the promise to notice, to step, and to try again with patience. Small rituals, a dawn breath, a moment of presence, a step onto a path, gather into a life that leans toward meaning. Each act is a quiet agreement with oneself to pursue what matters through the thicket of distraction. There is dignity in steady, ordinary practice because it shapes identity more surely than rare triumphs. Let consistency be the slow river that carves a canyon of purpose. In this steady rhythm, the open path begins to feel like home. Every footfall writes a portion of a map not found in atlases, but in memory and muscle. The roots made by courage and attention gather into an internal geography that informs future choices without loud instruction. When a direction is taken again and again, it becomes lined with meaning and light, recognizable even on foggy days. This is how confidence is built, not by rare eloquent acts, but by repeated gentle choices that affirm capacity. Allow those early steps to become waypoints to return to when the road looks uncertain. Trust the slow intelligence of lived experience. Silence is not emptiness, but a field in which inner directions can be heard more clearly. When the mind softens, a compass forms from values, curiosity, and the echoes of remembered purpose. That inner guidance rarely shouts. It nudges with steady, sensible clarity, inviting attention rather than demanding action. Learn to distinguish urgency from insight by observing where attention rests and what brings calm forward motion. In that quiet, discernment grows into a reliable ally. Allow patience to amplify the inner voice without forcing its pace. Direction often requires balancing what shines brightly with what is quietly essential. The lure of immediate reward can be loud, but deeper satisfaction follows choices aligned with long-held values. Consider the long view, like a map drawn not in ink but in intention, where each decision either honors or erodes inner cohesion. There is bravery in choosing restraint and discernment when the world insists on haste. This balance creates sustainable motion rather than frantic effort. Let choices be answers to the question, what nurtures growth across seasons? Practice reveals the shape of the inner compass as habits and small vows align with aspirations. Each choice made with awareness reinforces a magnetic orientation toward meaning and away from scattered impulses. When direction becomes habitual, decisions become less exhausting and more precise, leaving energy for the things that matter. Notice how calm deliberation feels, like steady wind at the back rather than a push from anxiety. This steadiness transforms uncertainty into manageable steps. Trust practice more than inspiration alone. No path remains perfectly straight. Course corrections are evidence of attentiveness, not failure. When preferences or circumstances change, the compass bends gracefully to accommodate new truths without losing center. Each correction is an act of courage and humility, acknowledging that growth requires adaptation. Embrace these moments as learning points that refine direction and increase resilience. Let adjustments be celebrated as wisdom gained rather than regrets to be hidden. Continue forward with an updated map and steady trust. The wild places call because they promise encounter with edges and expansion beyond familiar comfort. Standing at that threshold, there is a mix of fear and exhilaration that sharpens attention into presence. Risk is not recklessness, but the measured willingness to step where clarity is partial and learning is likely. Courage shows itself as a rhythm of breath and choice rather than absence of nerves. Notice how facing unknowns refines perspective and loosens attachment to certainty. Allow the wild to be a teacher in patience and fierce curiosity. Boldness finds balance when tempered by preparation and humility. It is energy shaped by awareness. Calculated risk accepts limits while stretching capacity, like a climber who respects the rock while reaching higher. Rise into challenge with tools of presence, planning, and community, not with isolation or bravado. Remember that vulnerability is not weakness, but a state that opens more honest learning and connection. This form of boldness sustains growth without needless harm. Let courage be skillful rather than performative. Edges reveal raw lessons hidden in softer places, patience, endurance, and the value of small adjustments. When pushing limits, each misstep becomes data rather than indictment, guiding future choices with clearer feedback. This perspective reclaims setbacks as essential information, not definitive statements of worth. There is artistry in staying curious through difficulty and translating discomfort into refined capability. Gradual exposure to challenge builds a quiet confidence that is unassuming but deep. Let edges teach rather than terrify. Risk, when embraced with wisdom, gifts unexpected vistas and inner expansion that comfort cannot supply. The rewards are not mere outcomes, but a broadened sense of who is possible and what can be known. This expansion creates new priorities, teaches the language of resilience, and deepens gratitude for ordinary moments. Celebrate the courage to try and the lessons that follow, not only the triumphs. The wild returns something essential, a living sense of presence that reshapes meaning. Carry that gift gently into everyday life. Loss enters like weather, sometimes sudden, sometimes slow, and it reorders priorities without asking permission. In the heaviness, there is a raw clarity that can reveal what truly mattered beneath everyday noise. Grief is an honest teacher. It insists on attention to what was and to what remains possible afterwards. Allow the period of sitting with loss to be a permitted pause, not a permanent exile. Within the ache, important textures of meaning often reappear, reshaped but present. Honor that process without rushing its quiet work. Hidden within loss are maps drawn in absence and memory, showing routes forward that might otherwise remain invisible. The fragments that remain, stories, habits, values, form a new cartography for living. Looking closely at these pieces reveals directions aligned with authenticity rather than obligation. This close reading takes patience and courage, a willingness to sit with discomfort and notice small truths. Over time, these revealed routes provide trustworthy guidance for renewed purpose. Let loss be a lens toward what deserves wholehearted tending. Resilience is not merely bouncing back, but gradual restoration in which strength is rebuilt with care and new awareness. Each small recovery, a smile, a project completed, a calm morning, counts as a stone laid in a renewed foundation. The measure of resilience is often small and private, seen in returned attention and regained appetite for life. Trust that restoration unfolds in seasons, sometimes slow but steadily transformative. Allow gentleness to temper ambition during rebuilding. This tender approach yields lasting renewal. Memory can be carried as both burden and fuel. Choosing how to steward it matters deeply. Transform remembrance into living tribute by aligning actions with the values revealed in past connections and experiences. That redirection honors what was lost while cultivating new chapters of meaning. The past is not erased, but integrated, its lessons serving future steps with grounded clarity. Carry memory as an ember that warms purpose rather than as a weight that stops motion. In this way, loss becomes a quiet source of direction. Reaching a summit can surprise with its stillness rather than trumpets, a gentle arrival marked by deeper breath and clarity. Achievement, reframed as presence, reveals that the point was not merely to reach, but to behold what the journey taught. This is a moment for gratitude that feels steady and unforced, a recognition of growth etched in quieter tones. Allow the calm to register the change, to let the lessons settle like sediment that clarifies water. In that stillness, future possibilities come into view. Celebrate without haste and with clear gratitude. At this summit, disparate experiences fold into a coherent sense of self and purpose, like tapestries woven from many colors. Integration is the patient practice of making sense of what has been learned and choosing which threads to carry forward. It requires honesty about what changed and compassion about what remains tender. This synthesis creates a firmer foundation for future steps and deeper clarity about genuine priorities. Let integration be the slow alchemy that turns experience into reliable wisdom. There is power in patiently arranging life by intention. A summit is also a beginning in disguise. From here, horizons broaden and fresh choices appear with new context. Renewal is not a restart, but a continuation informed by growth, where the compass reads differently because the internal map evolved. The courage to begin anew after arrival is rooted in lessons learned and in faith earned through effort. Embrace this chapter as both arrival and departure, holding both with steadiness. Now is the time to set intentions that reflect deeper clarity and renewed energy. part of summit work is to share the light gathered, not as instruction, but as invitation and example. Passing the light means offering presence, stories, and steady companionship to others on their paths without overshadowing their own journeys. Influence that comes from integrated wisdom helps others navigate their maps with greater ease and less loneliness. This sharing is gentle stewardship rather than ownership. It honors autonomy while offering warm guidance. Allow generosity of insight to be an ongoing practice that extends the adventure beyond personal arrival.